All right. So, in our podcast, You Can Be the Change, I have with me today Garima Sahai and Tarang. Tarang, you guys have met. So, I'll just introduce Garima over here, who is in Bay Area for more than now 20 plus years, right, Garima? Around 2 decades?
2023, yeah, now.
Awesome. Okay. And you came here for your graduation. So you graduated from US and then you decided to stay here for job and then the life happened, right? So welcome to our podcast. First of all, Garima, we are so happy and glad to talk to you. And of course, we will be talking more about yourself and about self-care at 40 after 40. So welcome to our podcast. And before we start diving into good stuff, if you can tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sugandha, for having me and also for creating this podcast and space for being the change. That's something close to heart for me, just being the change we want to see around us, within us. And I'm happy to share more of my experiences. I came, like you said, I came to the US in 2001 for my grad school at Stanford. And then I continued on to work here at Google since 2003. And then recently, last year, pivoted into social impact and education. I am a mother of two, now 10-year-old daughter and 16-year-old high schooler son. And my mom migrated to the US 5 years back after my dad passed away. And I'm a divorced person. So, we are ladies leading the house.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I mean, of course. Thanks for sharing your experience and of course where you come from. So of course good to know. Of course we would be doing a probably a separate podcast about your mom, like migrating at this age is a big deal, of course, and how she's adjusting. But talking about now, you've talked about having parents in the house. So you have mom and you have a teenager and two kids in the house, and then now you're doing social responsibility kind of activities too. So, you've been busy, believe, right? I mean, job and corporate job is not easy to deal with. So, doing all this, how have you been able to manage about or take care of yourself? Like, self-care. You can only do self-care, then only you can do care of others, right? And especially with elders in the house. So, how do you kind of look at it, and how do you manage to do the self-care?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I also feel coming from India and in general Southeast Asia, I feel like we didn't grow up with that muscle, especially as women and girls. Like it was a lot of it is about giving around us versus, trying to help ourselves. And it's a very interesting observation I have had between the US and Indian cultures. Like in the US, a lot of it starts from self and then you spread out. And in India, I think it starts with taking care of others around you, and then certain life instances and events evoke that, oh, I need to take care of myself too. So I think it gives us it's a privilege that we've been exposed to both cultures and we came here when we did, and we've been able to get some good from both sides. I feel like I started thinking about self-care late in my life. I will say, I'll acknowledge that. Like in the beginning, as I got married, I was working, I had my kids. It was all about how do I manage all these things without, in a way that the people around me were healthy, safe, and feeling loved and happy. I never really thought about what I needed. And when we are young, we don't even realize it, right? Our bodies are able to deal with a lot of things, and you don't realize what it will cause later. One remark I remember from a physician, like my annual physical checkup. One thing I've been good about is my annual physicals, and I think a lot of youngsters many times treat it lightly. But our family, we had some histories of like health issues which carried over generations. So I'd seen my dad being very particular about it, and I got that. And one of my physician visits, the physician said that investing in your health is like investing in your 401k. When you are 20, spending 10 minutes, 20 minutes amounts to spending 1 hour, 2 hours when you are 60. And that's the same way, just it was a very nice comparison, like a metaphor on how to think about this. And I think that triggered something. This was in my 30s, and I started investing a little bit in my health. And I think that became the seed of more and more. I had major life events happen around 38, 39. Like I got divorced, my dad passed away here. And I think that was a big anchor of self-care, like taking care of my physical and mental health. And so I started exercising more regularly. It was harder when I was working full time, so I'll also acknowledge that it's sometimes easier said than done. But prioritizing it in some way or other, whether it's, you're walking, you're swimming, you're going to the gym, or you are meditating, you are doing yoga, whatever can fit into our schedule and gives us a chance to look inward and also take care of our bodies. That was one major thing. There were other things, and I think that's personal to people.
Mhm.
What what causes them calm? And for me, nature is always a big healer.
Mhm.
And another thing I started, and this happened during COVID, was I started doing a lot more hiking
Uh-huh.
during that time because a lot of other activities were off the table. And I realized that just being out and out in the, and we again are privileged and have the luxury of being in California with the weather, with access to so many bounties of nature, and whether it's next to the beach or in the hills or in the redwoods, it was just so calming. And I think sometimes we underestimate the power of mental health over our physical health.
True,
And that
true.
was the other self-care thing I started investing in. But I'll pass it back to you. There are a lot more stories to share, but I think the number one thing is like take care of my physical and my mental health.
Yeah, and you bring it up a very good point, right? I mean, at times we think about self-care is only taking care of physical health, right? I mean, well, it's the mental health, which is very important as well. And I think they go hand in hand. It's not like one or the other. And usually, and especially maybe it's a stigma when we talk about mental health, and it can be anything which has triggered something psychologically. We do not tend to go and kind of take care of that, right? I mean, we try to pass it back saying, well, we're fine. But I think it's very important to think about it that, at times it's okay to go and seek consulting or help even if you're not feeling good mentally. Not being able to sleep is something going on in your in that subconscious that you need some attention towards, right? So I think you bring it up a very good point that self-care doesn't only mean physical health care but also mental health care, and it's okay, it's time we should think about it as well and not just say that,
And
well,
I love the part
it's,
you bring up, that seeking help.
yeah,
I think sometimes many of us, whether it's from the pressure of showing up as we have it all under
yeah,
control, or our
yeah,
life is, whether it's social media or wherever we see these pictures of people's lives going smoothly, and that's all very surface level. There are
yeah,
so many times, in fact, all of us
yeah,
need some support in some way or shape or manner.
yeah,
And I think it should actually be a very positive thing. Like myself and my kids, we
exactly,
all got therapy when we were going through this whole divorce thing six
exactly.
years back. My kids
Mhm,
were very little,
mhm,
but I am very vocal about it. And even though I have a huge family support system, and that is another thing, I think we
yeah,
are vulnerable, we
mhm,
share, that helps a lot. But sometimes it was just nicer to have a third party
yes,
professional in a room, and you have to find the right person
yeah,
because it can go either way.
yeah,
Just listening to you and giving their perspective and advice.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
and I think that is very beneficial from a mental health, from a centering perspective.
I agree. I mean, probably, I can share that as well with you. Is like, so I have a great support system, right? I mean, I went through the divorce as well. And Tarang is here, who, like, I think she was the first person I called, that, this is happening. And she was like, don't worry, we are here. Like, that kind of a strength and support. But still, one time I was like, no, I know all these people are with me and they're giving me all the strength. And that's how I could decide and move out, but still I went to seek help, right? And the only thing was that that person was listening in, and I don't know what happened, but I was just crying and crying and crying. But I think that one session helped me because all that came out, and I was like, okay, no one judges you, right? Your friends, your no one judges you, but at times you feel within that maybe someone will judge me. So this third person who doesn't know me, I just talk to that person, come out and done, right? I think that also helps a lot at times, and it yeah, I mean, it can be a trigger. Like in our case, it was divorce, but there can be other triggers also that we
Understood.
women
Yeah.
do not know, right? I mean, yeah, and you know, since I do have Tarang here as well, right? I mean, you know, of course, being friends, we talk a lot, and I think at times that's also very helpful, right? I mean, talking to your friends and knowing that they will not judge you, but it is like just a way of taking it out, right? I mean, just saying, okay, no one can help you in the sense that you have to help yourself, right? I mean, and the idea of self-care. But if you have some listening board with you who just listens to you and maybe not giving you advice back, but just listening to you, I think that also helps you to just, okay, now this is out of me, now I can just deal with the issue that I in hand, right? I mean, so I know that Tarang has a different scenario altogether. Of course, you know, two kids with a huger age gap. You know, one who's already a teenager, one who's the still just you know growing up, and then you know, I think Tarang, you decided to leave job, right? I mean, for one reason being your, you know, your husband being super busy, and then having to take care of the kids, right? So I think you would have gone through a lot of, I would say, changes in your mental, you know, in your life as well. How did you manage? I mean, about that, and how did you think that, okay, I'll have to take care of myself? Maybe that was a decision of taking care of yourself as well, right? I mean, I know you were going through few things.
So, I'll first start by saying thank you for bringing up the topic of self-care. And in that, talking about the professional care, the therapies that you received, because, I think especially in the Indian kind of a culture, it is a very big taboo. Thinking about going to a third person or a therapist is like, oh, are you out of mind? Or, the way that you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So I don't think we covered it ever in
yeah,
even one of our sessions.
yeah,
So that's really great that you ladies are here and you're ready to talk about it, because I think I'm sure there's a lot of people like as you said, your case was one kind of a scenario, but it could be kind of therapy that anybody might need
oh yeah,
for anything else that they're going through, right,
yeah,
in their lives.
yeah,
So that is great to hear. And, I hope this helps others who are listening or who will listen that, if you need help, please go seek it out.
yeah,
And then I'll talk a little bit about myself. So yeah, I have two kids. I did a little session on that. I have two boys, and I have a husband whose job keeps him really busy. And I was working, and I was in a similar kind of field. The first step I did when we had our first kid was move into a little bit of a different stream of work, which makes it a bit more flexible for me. And it was working for us. And, then we had the second one, and, other things changed. And I think in all this, I think as you were talking, I never thought about self-care. I was young. I could do it. I kept taking more. I was like, oh, I can handle it. And I remember a time where, I was taking care of uh, all kind of bills, payments, small things. But, those have to be done on time. So I was taking care of all of that and not realizing that, somewhere inside it's kind of building up.
yeah,
So there was a moment which came, when I realized that I cannot do it all by myself. And in that, I wouldn't say that I was alone and I did it all by myself. My spouse stepped in, and, he realized that, she's not able to take care of all of that together. So actually, there are a lot of things that I used to do while I was working, and now not working. He's actually doing it himself. And then I feel sometimes bad too, but still, at least there are things that he knew that, we have to split. That this is a time that, I have to step in and help her. And so as you said, the reason for leaving my job was not just one, it was a lot. It was including self-care.
yeah,
There was a time that, I started getting migraines, and they started getting so bad, not realizing that, even the work was adding to it. My work in the sense of my professional work that I was doing. Because all day I was working and I was thinking, now it's time to get one kid, now it's time to get the other one, or now feed the other one, or whatever. There is so much that keeps going on that a point came when I realized it's better I take a break. And it's been a longer kind of a break. It's been 2 years now. But take a break, go slow, and figure out more things. And it's not only about working professionally. As Garima, you said, you changed, switched lines. I feel like, okay, whatever I have, financially is okay. The only thing I can do right now is I have a little kid. I can volunteer. So I'm doing a lot of volunteer opportunities that come in, not only for schools. I volunteer at a domestic violence non-profit. I volunteer at a nearby swimming and swim and tennis club kind of a place. So all kinds that come to me where I see, any of my help could help them. I go in and just start working. So it's been great. It's been going well. I think I'm spending a lot of time on myself. I know when I have to go for my walks, trying to cover it. Garima, you're right. Staying in this region, it really helps. We have an opportunity to use the nature and go around. I was in Delhi last month, and I was wondering how would anybody go for a walk here. When I tell my sister who lives there, hey, go for a walk, and I was like, where is she going to go? She has to first drive to a place. You need so many hours to do that. Here I can step out of my house and start doing it. So I've been trying to do all that, and trying to be involved with what all I can, and along with it, manage myself.
I think you bring up a very great point, Tarang, and I think I'm going to kind of circle back to a few of the things that were resonating, both Sugandha, what you were saying, and Tarang. Tarang, one thing I really appreciate is that fact that as, again, Indian, South Asian women, many times we take on double the duty on ourselves, taking care of home and working and also managing social engagements like
Absolutely.
relationships,
Yeah.
hosting events, and we take it all upon ourselves, and we sometimes, some of it is social conditioning also. We have had roles we have seen growing up that the husbands do something and the wives, and other times we never have that open conversation with our spouses. So I'm so happy to hear you were able to navigate that, and both of you and your spouse were able to come up with whatever model works for you. But sometimes we have to open that door for the other person to lean in and help us, just like we were saying,
Absolutely.
seeking support. And maybe, it's just a matter of having that communication and setting up some boundaries, some rules, so that the other person can start taking on some of this load that we carry upon ourselves as women. And whether it's taking some support in childcare or helping with social events, or just parent care, whatever is taking on our lives. So that really resonated, that sometimes it's us holding back and then having extra stresses because we are trying to do too much. We are just one human.
Yeah.
And the second part around around this kind of work, because work has such a tight definition. There's this professional work. I feel like that can also be a part of self-care, the kind of work we do. And in my current job, as part of my self-care, one thing I negotiated was 80% time. So I do not work on Fridays, I work Monday to Thursdays. And that was a very conscious decision. I realized that I still have kids at home that I'm trying to support. I still have my friends that I have now realized are a huge part of my health and happiness. And that goes back to your point, Sugandha, like are the friends we lean on and the relationships. And a lot of people say that one day when we are on our deathbeds, the one thing that we will value or regret the most is the time that we have invested or not in our relationships, various kinds. So creating that space and being able to lean into these friendships and the kind of fulfilling work, volunteering, there is also an extra level of health and happiness that comes when you do the work that you enjoy. It's not just for a particular, whether it's financial or a status or a title. It's just whatever gives you fulfillment at that time. So I'm glad you guys brought up those things. Awesome points.
I'll add something there, Garima. When I was young and I started, my journey, I'm a CA. So in India, you have to do 3 years of internship with another accountant firm or some kind of a CA. I used to work, I don't know, till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. at times, the place where I was working. And I was enjoying it that time. So that, that part of my life, I was enjoying that work till a point when it came that I stopped enjoying it. And I realized, oh, I need a change. I can't do this anymore.
So
Though
true.
it is something when I think about it, my dad calling me, I remember, and I not picking up my cell phone because I was working at 2 a.m. Then he called my senior who was also there. And he comes back and he says, hey, your dad is trying to reach out to you and you're not picking up the phone. He's on my phone here. And can you talk to him? And I was like, why are you so, worried? And I could think back now, what was going on in my father's mind. 2 a.m., my daughter is not responding and she's working somewhere outside. But I was enjoying that part. But now you ask me to do that, I will not do it now. But if I was that age, maybe I'll take it back and I'll say, yeah, I will do it. But
Yeah.
my responsibilities and my priorities in my life have changed now. And also that, hey, that phase is gone. I don't enjoy that part. I have to switch. So this is the time I want to do something else. And this is what I like now. I feel like, hey, I like being with my little kid at school. Hey, I want to go and help somebody else. I can, I have done my part of that time when I was a 20-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Very valid. Like it's so evolving, right? With
Yeah.
our ages and stages,
Exactly.
how, and I
Mhm.
think it's great that awareness is the first step to making change.
Yeah,
So as soon as we
absolutely.
realize that, oh, I'm not enjoying this anymore, I want something else, I think that becomes a trigger. And then the second part is don't let us, we don't let us ourselves be defined by the narrow definitions of what work should be or
Right.
what
Mhm.
fulfillment should be or what we should be seeking in our lives, and trying to decide for ourselves what those things mean to us. So great points. Thank you, Tarang.
Yeah, and I think both ladies have brought such a good point. I think the whole idea of me doing a podcast was because this is what gave me pleasure, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's outside of work, but this is something I just wanted to do it, and of course, I was finding the right time and I should do it. But this I think I love this. So you both are like totally right about it. It's not just the work as in work, but it's what gives you pleasure, and that's the mode of self care as well. And I think one thing that you were talking about, your husband leaning in and kind of helping you out. I think we as a women, and especially Asian women, we are also one thing is that we try to make our kids also, we keep doing the work for them and not letting them take care of themselves, which is also a part of, we will be like, oh, well, they're too young. They cannot do it. They cannot do it. But then that's also something we are adding to ourselves only, right? I mean, it's like we should also learn to let them do the stuff that they should be doing, and the one that will make them independent, and of course that also helps us as ladies, or as taking care of the house as well, that okay, we are there to support them, but let them do it. And I think that's another thing that I like about the American culture, that they let the kids be at an earlier age as compared to us Asian people or Indian, especially Indian parents. Like till today, my father actually calls me and is like, "Did you have food? Till what time you were working?" And I'm like, take a chill, like enjoy your life. I can manage it. I mean, you're sitting too far. Second is, I am of that age now. I should be taking care of you rather you taking care of me, right? So I think, but then that's also very ingrained with us, and especially like with us ladies who feel the duty of taking care of the whole family and keeping ourselves at the back burner, right? I mean, oh, we'll take care of ourselves. This person needs our need help, or this person in the family needs more help, so we should take care of them first and not take care of ourselves. I think the idea should be that both go hand in hand. If we don't take care of ourselves, we won't be able to take care of the other person as well, right? I mean, if we are not happy, how will we take care of the other person too? So I think, yeah, the other piece too, I mean, I just want to ask you guys, ladies, is we are at a stage where now there are hormonal changes coming to our bodies, right? I mean, it's not just physical changes that we are dealing with, it's hormonal changes, which leads to a lot of times the emotional, I would say, ups and downs. And that also is something we try to keep to ourselves. Again, same thing that we think of, well, this is something I have to go through on my own, so I won't share it with others. What are your thoughts about it? I mean, how do you deal with those kind of emotional ups and downs, or hormonal changes leading to a lot of these things?
Yeah, I have taken it upon myself to speak vocally about all taboo topics. And so, let's name it out there. Menopause is coming.
Menopause,
It
yes,
comes with
exactly.
with comes with a lot of
Oh
changes.
my God.
I don't know. I also didn't realize that it can hit people as early 40s. So,
Mhm.
because no, we never talk about it, didn't re
Yeah.
I was talking to some friends and they were mentioning that, oh, in my family, my sister got it at 44. So I was like, oh my God, I'm 44. So we don't even realize sometimes that it can be, you think it's like later, closer to 50, this, that, but everybody's body is different, everybody's families are different. And so one thing is that we need to be aware of these things can come at certain age. And then the second thing is what it means. I did not realize it was such a big deal. Even like the start of our menstruation, we didn't talk much about it. Yes,
Oh yeah.
in fact, I think where we grew up in India, many times you would discover it after as opposed to being aware of something coming
Mhm.
down the pipe.
Right.
So that's one thing I think just building knowledge before is a helpful thing
Yeah.
always, just
Yeah.
knowing what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
Second thing is I started having these kind of sweat episodes while sleeping. I don't know if any of you have gotten there yet.
So I am already menopausal. And yes, you were right. I hit at 43, 44 my menopause. So I got menopause at a pretty early age. So I know what you're talking about, all those hot and cold flashes and
Yeah, I have not gotten full, I've not crossed the menopause stage, but I'm getting those now that
yeah.
sometimes I wake up in the night and I'm sweating and I'm like, why is the house so hot? Initially it was like, and I'm looking at my daughter, she is still holding on to her blanket. So then I realized, oh, it's just me. The house is not hot. That's when I started figuring out, oh, there are some changes coming down the pipe. I should start. And I would love to hear more about things that, we should think about, we can do to support our bodies as we go through this change. But on the emotional side, I feel like the one big hormonal change thing I also remember was when we had babies. That was one thing I remember that I went a little, and I think that is another stage of life where a lot of women go through a lot of changes, both hormonal and also emotional. Like you are with a small baby in a room, and your body's not as much in your control as it used to be. And I don't remember those times fondly. So, like for this menopause stuff, also, I'm trying to figure out, let me understand this better so I can go through it with grace. So, I would love to hear more
Of
from,
course,
I'm
I can
still
talk
building
about it
knowledge.
more because, of course, I've gone through that phase. Now, you rightly said, though, Garima, that, when I was going through that phase, I was not like, nobody had talked about it, right? So I did not know what's going on, right? So, and I was having these episodes. I was in Boston in like winters, and everybody was wearing like jackets and all, and I was sweating. I was literally sweating that bad that my manager comes to me and she says, "Are you having a heart attack?" I was like, "No, I'm not." But then she was like, "Oh, now I know what's going on, so you'll be fine," because of course she was of age and she's gone through, so she was like, I know what's going on. But I think the other piece that you have, and I think usually I've heard, is uncontrollable anger, right? Like you have no reason why you're feeling angry, or you're feeling like, just, I don't want anyone around me, I just want to be myself, don't talk to me. Like any voice coming to you, be like, why are you speaking, why are you literally speaking? So I think that was, and I had a challenge because my parents were here when I was going through that. So with an elderly parents being there, and you being in a mood of not talking to anyone, was not a pleasant time to be, right? I mean, I was like, oh my god, and to your point, you have such a taboo to these things. I could not speak to my mom, I could not talk to my mom about it, that this is what I'm going through. Had I been talking to her, maybe, and maybe she would have told me, yes, this happens. But then the other piece is that my father is a doctor. So but I could not, as a doctor also, I could not go to him, right? I mean, forget about being a daughter, right? So I think that also is somewhere we do have these kind of taboos, or we do have those kind of like apprehensions. We can't talk about menopause, or for that matter, when we get on to menstrual cycles. And you brought up a good point about being pregnant and just delivering. I think a lot of ladies go through postpartum depression, which is like the whole reason is they are not able to open up, or they are not able to talk about it, and then that's where you go through those
And
depression.
at those times, there's also that external pressure where everybody's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, you should be so happy. You must be bonding with the baby and
yeah,
everything." So
exactly.
there's, yeah. But I appreciate you sharing about the menopause and
Yeah,
symptoms. I'll watch out for the anger. I do feel like there are times when I feel suddenly very anxious and sad, and I am not able to
yeah,
pinpoint what is, and it could be hormonal.
yeah,
And one thing I also wanted to share for our audience benefits is, and this happened while I was going through harder times in life, I was noticing that there were certain periods in the night where I will wake up every day. Like it was some 3 p.m., 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. or something, and I could not sleep. I was having these negative thoughts.
yeah,
And I'm seeing some of that sometimes happening now. Again, this time it might be
yeah,
hormonal. And what helped me then and what I'm trying to practice now is I would tell myself that all of these thoughts that I am thinking will go away in the morning,
yeah,
because I noticed that every time I woke up, everything I was so worried about seemed so much milder later when time had passed or when it was morning than in that moment. In that moment, it felt like, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? And I'm,
yeah,
anxious and stuff. And it's been helping, because I tell myself, okay, in the morning we'll think about this again, and we'll see if it is a real problem.
good.
And then I'm actually able to go back to sleep a little earlier. I still, sometimes when I have these episodes, I stay awake for a little bit, but because I know that in the morning some things will be smaller or not as bothersome anymore, I'm able to get over it. So I'm just, yeah, sharing it out in case it
Well,
helps.
good that you're sharing. And since you're sharing, I had the same thing, right? I mean, when I moved out and everything, same thing. Going through difficult time, I was not able to sleep, and same thing used to happen. I'm like 3 or 4 a.m. I would just wake up, and I would be waking up with sweating and all, and I'll be like, I've had some nightmare or something, and then the sleep would not come. So and then I started doing some positive affirmations, like
Mm.
what you were saying. So I used to kind of do positive, like kind of, okay, this is what I have to think about and all. I started doing a lot of meditation at that time also, that because I was like, okay, this is something I have to heal myself from within. This is something, mentally I'm not there, so I have to heal myself. So I used to read a lot of good meditation, kind of those books, right? And then do a lot of meditation. And one thing I have learned through those times, and of course through going through menopause also, is that you do positive affirmations for yourself, that really start helping you, because you start thinking positively, because a lot of negative thoughts will come even at during the when you're going through the your menopause. A lot of negative thoughts come, like thoughts which are self-destructive at times, right? So you have to just overpower that. And if you start keeping doing the positive affirmations, I think that helps you go out of it. So you can be depressed. So I've seen people, I've heard about it, now I was reading it. And the other piece is that internet, I would say, is like full of everything. So do not believe in the internet god. There maybe believe in people who have gone through it. But because internet, and this, I think this is human psychology also, when you're going through something, you try to read only that thing. So if you're going through negative, you will try to read negative pieces only. So you have to train your brain not to read negative. Try to find a positive affirmation. So if you're trying to read internet, read for positive. Do not read for go for, oh well, depression happens, this happens, that happens. Yes, that happens, but then there are ways to take it out also. So I think that's,
I would love to hear from Tarang also on this, but I just
yeah,
wanted to underscore your statement about leaning in to your friends and not talking about because sometimes as we are not able to talk to our parents and for whatever reasons, right? Having that circle of people where you can share experiences and what each other, because all of us we are all, 50% of the world's population is women. All
right.
of us are going through it at some stage or something. So
Yeah,
we have circles. We just need to share and be open about it, and we'll find that support. So, and
exactly.
one more thing I learned, this was therapy, I wanted to underscore that, was one tip was there were times where I would feel like, oh my God, everything's falling apart. And my therapist had taught me this trick that count like 5 things, very simple 5 things, which are just fine in your life. You're healthy, you're not in a hospital right now, your kids are healthy, or even simple things like, my house, I have a safe place to live in, simple things. And just saying, like you were saying, positive affirmations, they don't need to be big and
Yeah,
grand. They can be
exactly.
small things which just center you and ground you at times. And
Mhm.
that really helped too, because sometimes these things, tend to shake you, but then you're like, no, step by step, this is fine, this is good, I'm still here. But
Yeah,
Tarang, I'd love to hear more
yeah.
about your experience.
Garima, I'm the same age as you, right? And I think I've been going through perimenopause for a few years now. And two things is one, as you were saying, the whole positive affirmation thing. I have to do it several times. Um, that's one. And the second is anger. I do get anger, and I know, it comes out of the family most of the times. And now, I'm sure when they hear it, they'll say, hey, she's still angry at us. But there are more times that, I know I'm getting it. And now I know what to do when I'm feeling that, hey, you know what? I'm going to be screaming at somebody for this little thing. I have to calm myself down, and nobody else is going to come into it. So, I have to see, because they're also growing kids. There's a teenager. I can't be doing it to him all the time. There are times when it is correct, and there are times when I can feel for a small thing I'm trying to make it bigger. And that's when I realize, hey, it is coming in, it's triggering in back. So you have to calm yourself down. Whatever comes in, whatever makes you, any kind of activity in the house that'll make you calm you down, maybe look for that. Or as you said, Garima, count a few things. That'll probably calm you down. Things that can calm you down there. It's totally different, anger and the whole sadness and the things falling apart. But in the end, it's uh, similar kind of a thing that you have to take to do that'll calm you down, even in case of anger too. And that's what I think I follow. I love, fixing the house. So I'll go and start fixing the house and leave the scene. And that helps me, and later I'll realize that, okay, now I'm better. I can go back to the kids. I've been reading a little bit about how to manage kids. And one of the places I read that, when you are angry, you have to tell the kids that, what, right now I can't talk to you because I am not feeling okay to talk. So even telling them that, hey, right now mommy is not feeling okay because I have a little one too who is 6 year old, that, hey, I'm not feeling okay. Can we talk in a few minutes? That'll help, at least not screaming at instead of screaming at him.
And you're also role modeling it for them, that they can say that too
Absolutely correct.
sometimes. And I think that is something we didn't learn as much in terms of boundaries and stuff. But I think that's awesome that you're able to tell your 6 year
Mm-hmm.
old that, hey, mama
Absolutely.
needs some space. And then he can do that too when, as he's
When he
growing. So
grows. Yeah.
that's a
Mhm.
good thing.
Yeah, and I think this is also again ties down to that, we as kids were not that able to open up to our parents, even if we were going through some things, right? So having this openness with the kids is also very important, because we, of course, we're talking about self-care, but thinking from the kids' point of view, and especially with teenagers, right? They have a lot of things going on in their mind, in their body, in their, hormonally. So if we open up to them saying, okay, it's okay to talk to us anything and everything, right? I think that also helps, one, to us to understand the kid better, what he's going or she is going through. Second, the kid also opens up, and the kid do not do like they do not go outside to seek help. They know that they have the help from the parents itself. So I think
Mm.
that's also a good thing that you're bringing it up here, that just be open to your kids also. And you can tell them you're not ready to talk right now, and they can do the same when they are going through that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
And I
especially
think, by the way, we should do another full episode on
I
teenage
know.
girls.
And I want to do a quick time check. It's
I
10
know.
on.
It's yeah. So it's yeah. So I know we can talk. We can keep going and going on this topic, I believe. So of course we'll have to do a round two for this one, Garima. And
Yeah.
we have. I think there are so many topics we've talked in this conversation that we should be talking more at length about it, especially even for that matter, menopause and getting onto the menstrual cycle. I mean, those are.
Yeah, I think one thing, if anybody can take away from this episode, is if the power of sharing and leaning in, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your circle of friends, and even with strangers like therapists, professional people, you will get some benefit out of it. And sometimes I've realized when I share, my problems become way smaller than what I hear
Yeah,
back.
So true.
absolutely.
So there is everybody's going through, has gone through, will go through something that is life, and I feel like we tend to share much of the goodies and less of these struggles at times, and but it really can help.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I totally agree. And I probably the whole thing of thinking that, you will be judged because you're sharing something like which is like your troubles is not the case. And especially with the friend circles, and even with your relatives as well, right? I mean, people don't judge you because they know you, right? So you only go to the person who you are open to. So probably you should not just talk about goodies as what you're saying, Garima, but you should also talk about the things that are troubling you. That will help, for sure. Thank you, ladies. This was a great, great discussion. Thanks for your time and appreciate all your sharing. And as we said, there are a lot of other episodes to come over, so probably we'll be talking much more about this. So thank you so much. And again, I wish you both all the best. I know you are on a stage where I've already been there, so if you need any advices, I'm there. I can talk about it as well. But thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us. Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.